The story I'm about to tell you begins in the idyllic countryside of Montana. Now, when you look at these beautiful panoramic images that were done by a channel called Relaxation, whose description will be in the link below, you see amazing wildlife. And immediately, the thing that comes to mind is going to be Yellowstone, or maybe the preservation of our wildlife areas. But that's not what this video is about. This video isn't about gold mining destinations or places where you can strike it rich. It's not about things like tribal culture of the various tribes, the Salish, the Blackfeet, the Sioux, the Crow. It isn't about travel destinations for amazing fly fishing or a place to get a cabin in the mountains. This is actually about this man right here, General Dwight D. Eisenhower. I know y'all are going, Frosty, what the hell are you thinking? You put these beautiful iconic things up, and then you put this man, the 5-star general who would become president. Well, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take you on a journey. I'm going to take you on a journey of Montana. But what in the hell do Montana and General Eisenhower have in common? And I'm going to get to that right now. So the first thing we need to do in order to understand this story is understand who Dwight David Eisenhower was. On October 14th of 1890, Dwight D. Eisenhower would be born. He would die March 28th of 1969. Now, many of us affectionately refer to him as Ike. He was an all-American hero, military officer, statesman, and he served as the 34th President of the United States. He was renowned in his military prowess and would serve as the Supreme Allied Commander in the Expeditionary Force in Europe. He was one of the only 5-star generals who would rank as General of the Army. He planned a number of campaigns, and one of the most famous was the 1944 invasion of Normandy. What a hell of a background. So there's no doubt why he was put on the 1971 Eisenhower dollar after his death in 1969. Now, he served as president from 1953 to 1961, so he would die just 8 years after he got out of the presidency. He took the place of Harry Truman, and he was followed up by John F. Kennedy. It's a hell of a group to be associated with. But why all the imagery of Montana? Well, maybe people think that he was born in Montana. And no, that's not where the story goes either, because actually he was born in Denison, Texas. Well, maybe he lived in Montana, or maybe he liked to fly fish and do stuff there. Nope. He was actually raised in Kansas. So, Frosty, what in the hell are we doing talking about Montana and Eisenhower if it has nothing to do with him at all? Well, what it has to do with is a hoard, a collection of coins, a large collection of coins. But this video isn't going to be about me telling you specifics about the hoard. In fact, I'm going to tell you why I don't believe this hoard is actually a hoard at all. I think it's poor planning, poor budget, and a convenient bit of marketing instead of an actual hoard. Let's talk about this a little bit. So when I think about great hoards across our hobby, numismatics, stacking, whatever it is, I think about things like GSA. And I think about the government hoard of Morgan and Peace silver dollars. And the reason that they had them was because they needed them on hand if and when somebody turned in a silver certificate. Because remember, a silver certificate was payable to silver on demand. Q 1963, when the Coin Act would change that, taking away that standard and putting us where we utilized fiat money, which was no longer held to any precious metal standard. Now, cue the Ike dollar. Why in the world would anybody store something that was made of copper nickel? It doesn't make sense to me. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the Ike dollar. I'm doing a video about it, number one. I just finished my collection. I've got my Ike book over here. I worked with a couple different channels to get them. One of the strategies that we utilized to fill our books was to take old mint sets and these blue and brown Ikes. You could put together a really nice collection of presidential dollars, or these Ike dollars, excuse me. You can put a really cool collection of Ike dollars together for fairly inexpensive. And you know what? They're going to be a fairly decent grade. So for those who want to create a book or collect a book, man, you can buy some mint sets and you can put that stuff together and you can put together a really nice book of Ike dollars. But this isn't the collection we're talking about. The collection that I'm talking about is 223 sewn shut mint bags that were found in 2011 in a Federal Reserve vault located in the state of Montana. Big Sky had nothing to do with the family, and no, it's not related to the TV show or even Hannah Montana. This is related to a Federal Reserve bank and them finding 223 bags of copper nickel coins in a basement vault. Well, here's the thing. They say there's a family associated with that. In an article that I read regarding this particular hoard, it stated that they were acquired by the Littleton Coin Company and they were purchased for $1 million. And Ken Westover, who actually flew to Montana to get the hoard, said that in all of his years of business, he had never seen anything quite like the truly remarkable quality of these particular coins. But is it a hoard? See, a hoard happens when somebody puts them somewhere for an intended purpose. But what was the purpose of 223 sewn mint bags in a basement in Montana? See, no family, according to the information that I can find, can be classified with this particular quote-unquote hoard. In fact, the more I look at it, the more I see this is just the U.S. Mint sending its coins to a Federal Reserve Bank and them just sitting there. Maybe they couldn't pass them on. Now, see, if this were Las Vegas, it wouldn't have been an issue because the coins in Las Vegas would have ended up in the dollar machines. And one of the reasons that the Ike dollar actually came to being was because this particular item was in demand. See, a lot of people loved using the Peace dollars and the Morgan dollars and those old large silver dollars in the dollar gambling. They like the ting, 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 ting sound, and they like to hold them in their hands. But one of the problems was that after the 1963 silver, people were not giving the money back to the casinos. So they had to start utilizing other types of tokens. So they started minting their own casino tokens in place of this. And people were missing the dollar. They didn't want to gamble with tokens. They wanted to gamble with the dollars. So they petitioned the mint. Well, in 1969, President Ike would pass away, and we also had another major event that could be commemorative on the reverse, and that was the landing on the moon by the Apollo 11 astronauts. So there were a couple different reasons in which they could justify minting these. But again, there was no silver in these particular coins. These coins were made of copper nickel. Well, you'd find 100 or 200,000 of these in a vault in Vegas. being there left over to replenish the coffers when they were utilized in the casino gambling machines. But this is a sleepy little town in Montana. So the question is, can we really call it a hoard? Or do we call it a forgotten pile of money and had to sell them off, much like what happened with the GSA hoard? They couldn't keep them on their books anymore, but they couldn't afford to just let them go. I mean, after all, face value was $223,000. And if Littleton purchased all of these at $1 million, the bank gained face value $3 and change. So there was definitely a boon for the Federal Reserve Bank that had those. Now, marketing. Littleton sells these coins per coin. So the question remains, is it a hoard? Or is it a collection of coins that were found and some creative marketing to sell something? I'll let you make up your mind on the end of this. You determine what you want to do. But if you'll stay tuned, we'll be directed to another video here in just a minute. And again, if you're interested in these later on, you can look at one of the two videos that are located over my shoulder.